In this video, I walk you through the Shopify theme editor. We'll go through every button, every menu, every panel. And once that's done, I'll show you how to actually customize a store at 3 different levels: the theme settings, the sections, and the blocks. If those words don't mean anything to you yet, don't worry. That's exactly what we're going to cover. Let's start by opening the editor together. I'm in the Shopify admin. In the menu on the left, I click Online Store and then Themes. The theme page loads, and at the top you can see the theme that's currently published, with a current theme badge next to its name. To customize this theme, I click on Edit Theme button. The editor loads, and this is the screen we're going to explore today. The editor has 3 main zones, and we're going to look at each one. At the top, you have the menu bar. That's the lineup here with all the icons and the menus. On the left, you have the sidebar. It's this panel that lists everything on the page you're currently editing in a tree view. And in the middle, the live preview. That's the view of the page itself, and it updates in real time as you make changes. One detail to know about the layout. If your screen is wide enough, you actually get 2 side panels at the same time, the sidebar on the left and the settings panel on the right. To show you what happens on a smaller screen, I'm going to zoom into the editor. Watch the right panel. There. It just disappeared. Now I'm in what's called single sidebar mode. The sidebar is still on the left, but the settings panel doesn't show on the side anymore. Instead, when I click on an element in the sidebar, the settings panel opens up below it, in the same column. So now I have 2 stacked zones on the left, the sections list at the top and the settings of the selected elements at the bottom. And those 2 zones are resizable. If I want more room to navigate the sections list, I grab the separator between the 2 and I drag it down. The sections list gets bigger and the settings panel gets smaller. I can drag it back the other way if I need more room to see the settings. That way, you can adapt the layout to whatever you're working on at the moment. I'll zoom back out for the rest of the video, but keep that in mind if your screen is smaller. The layout will look a bit different, but everything works exactly the same way. Let's start with the top left of the menu bar. You can see 3 icons sitting next to each other. These 3 icons don't change anything in the live preview. What they change is what shows up in the sidebar on the left. The first one is the sections icon. That's the default view, the one we're on right now. When this icon is active, the sidebar shows you all the sections and blocks of the page you're currently editing, in a tree view. We'll spend a lot of time on this view later, so I won't go too deep right now. The second icon, the gear, is the same settings. I click on it, and you can see the sidebar just switched. Now it doesn't show sections anymore. It shows the global settings of the theme: the logo, the colors, the typography, the layout, the animation, and so on. Anything you change in here applies to the entire shop, not just one page. We'll come back to it. The third icon is App Embeds. I click on it and again the sidebar switches. An app embed is an element added by an app installed on the shop that shows up across the entire site, not just on one page. Typical examples are a chatbot, a cookie banner, or a reviews widget that appears at the bottom of every page. From here, you can turn them on or off. I'll click back on the sections icon to go back to the default view, and we'll keep going. Let's move to the middle of the menu bar. You have 3 items here. The first one is the theme name with a live or draft badge next to it. This is a good moment to talk about what a theme actually is. A theme is the overall look of your online store. It's the fonts, the colors, the layout, the visual style. It's basically what shapes how your site feels to the visitor. The badge next to the theme tells you the status. Live means this theme is the one currently published on the shop, and draft means you're editing a theme that isn't published yet. The second item is the market menu. I click on it and you can see a drop-down opens. If you sell in several countries, this menu lets you adapt the theme by market. For example, you could have a different hero image for France and a different one for the United States, all on the same theme. One thing to know, market customizations requires a Shopify Advanced or Plus plan. On lower plans, you'll still see this menu, but it will only show store default, which just means the standard look of the theme without any market-specific changes. I close the drop-down and go on. The third item is the template menu. I click on it and you can see a drop-down opens with a list of page types: homepage, products, collections, cart, pages, blocks, and a few other depending on your shop. Now, what's a template? A template is the layout used by a page type. Each page type has its own template, and that template defines what shows up on that kind of page. So right now, I'm editing the homepage template. If I click on products in this menu, the editor loads the product templates. You can see the preview just changed, and now I'm looking at a product page. The sidebar on the left also updated to show the sections of this template. So when you want to customize how your product pages look, this is where you come. You open this menu, you pick products, the product template, and you start editing. I'll click the menu again and pick homepage to go back to the home, and we'll keep going. Now let's look at the right side of the menu bar. There are 6 items here, and we'll go through them one by one. The first one is the Sidekick icon. Sidekick is Shopify's AI assistant. I click on the icon and you can see a conversation panel just opened on the right. From here, you can have an open conversation with Sidekick, ask questions, get help with general tasks, basically anything related to your shop. Think of this as your direct line to the assistant, but Sidekick can also do something more interesting, which is actually edit elements of your store for you. We'll see how that works in a second when we go to the Preview Inspector. I'll close the panel. The second item is the Preview Inspector. I click on the icon to turn it on. Now watch what happens when I move my mouse over the preview. You can see that as I hover over different parts of the page, each section gets outlined. So instead of looking for a section in the sidebar, I can just click directly on what I want to edit in the preview. Let me click on this section here. You can see 2 things just happened. First, the section got selected in the sidebar on the left. Second, a small floating menu appeared. This menu has a few useful actions. I can duplicate the section, I can hide it without deleting it, or I can delete it. And you can also have an Ask for Changes button. This is where Sidekick edits actually happen. Let me show you. I click on Ask for Changes, and you can see a text field appears. Now I can type what I want Sidekick to do. I'll type make this button rounded and I'll send it. Sidekick is processing, and there. The change is already applied in the preview. What Sidekick actually did here is modify an existing setting in the theme, the border radius setting. That's how it works most of the time. Sidekick uses the settings that the theme already exposes, and it tweaks them based on what you ask. A few things to know about what you can ask Sidekick. You can ask it to change a setting on the element you've selected, like I just did it with the button. You can also ask it to change global styles across the entire site. For example, if I say set all primary buttons to navy, it will update them everywhere on the shop. You can ask it to generate a new section or block from scratch. For example, add a testimonials section for the hero, and Sidekick will create one and place it for you. And you can ask it to change the content itself, like rewriting a heading or updating some text. One thing to keep in mind. Sidekick works within what the theme already allows. If you ask for something it can't do, it will tell you and suggest alternatives. It's a great helper for everyday changes, but it has its limits on very granular tweaks. One more thing about the preview inspector. If I move my mouse between two sections in the live preview, you can see a plus button appears. If I click on it, I can insert a new section right at this exact spot, between the two existing ones. Same logic works between blocks inside the section. I will close this for now and turn the inspector off. The third item is the mobile preview toggle. It's the phone icon. I click on it and you can see the preview just switch to a mobile view. This is useful to check how your page looks on a small screen. I click again to go back to desktop. Quick tip. If you want a clean full width view of the page with no panels at all, you can click the active sidebar icon up at the top left, the one we used earlier, and watch what happens. Both the sidebar and the settings panel collapse, and you get the full preview with nothing around it. I click again to bring the sidebar back. The fourth item is the undo and redo arrows. They reverse or restore the changes you just made. The interesting thing is that the history sticks around even after you click save. So you can save a change your mind a minute later, click undo, and it will roll back, even though you saved. The history only gets cleared if you reload the page or close the editor. So as long as your editor stays open, you can always undo what you just did. The fifth item is the 3-dot menu. This is where the team info and a few utility options live. I click on it and you can see the menu opens with several entries. Let me go through them. Edit code opens the code editor of the team. That's where developers can dig into Liquid, CSS, or JSON files. We won't touch it today. Edit default team content lets you edit the default text strings of the team. Things like the word icon buttons, error messages, or system labels. So if you want to rewrite them in your own voice, you do it from there, instead of changing each instance one by one. View opens a clean preview of the theme in a new tab, so you can see what visitors see without the editor frame around it. View documentation opens the documentation of the theme. That's especially useful if you're using a paid theme with custom features like Aries. Keyboard shortcuts opens a panel with every shortcut available inside the editor. Get support opens a link to contact the team support. And at the bottom of this menu, you can see the team info, the name of the team, the version number, and the developer who built it. I close this menu and move on. The sixth and last item is the save button, with a small drop-down arrow next to it. If I just click save, the changes I made are published live on the shop. But if I click the drop-down arrow next to it, I can see a create rollout option appears. A rollout is a newer Shopify feature that lets you do a few things. You can draft changes without publishing them right away. You can schedule a release for a specific date and time, or you can run an A/B test against the version that's currently live. Rollouts are available on the basic plan and app, and you also need the new version of Shopify Markets active on your shop. I'll close the drop-down, and that's it for the top bar. Now let's dive into the sidebar on the left and start customizing the store. I'm going to start with the widest type of customization, the one that affects the entire shop at once, the theme settings. I click the gear icon at the top left and you can see the sidebar just switched. Now it's showing me the list of global settings of the theme. Let me scroll through it so you can see what's in there. You have logo, colors, typography, layout, animations, cart, and a few more depending on the theme you're using. The key thing to remember about this view is that anything you change in here applies to the entire shop. So if I change the heading font, that new font is going to show up on the home page, on every product page, on every collection page, in the cart, in the footer, everywhere. That's by design. Shopify wants you to keep your visual identity consistent across the site, so global stuff stays global. Let me show you with a quick example. I will click on typography. You can see two main settings, the heading font and the body font. I will click on the heading font picker and the panel opens with all the fonts I can choose from. I'm going to pick a different one, something visibly different from what is currently used. And there. Look at the preview. The new font is now applied to the heading at the top of the hero, but also to the titles of the sections below and to the headings in the footer. One change applied across the entire site. That's what global means. I will undo that to keep things clean and we'll move on to the next level of customization. Now let's move to the next level of customization, which is the sections. I click the sections icon at the top left to go back to the default view, and you can see the sidebar is showing me the tree view of the home page, the page I'm currently editing. Before we start editing, I want to take a second to explain the structure of this tree, because it's not just a flat list, it's organized in groups. At the top, you have the header group. That's where you'll find things like announcement bar and the header itself. At the bottom, scrolling down, you have the footer group. Both of those groups are special. They are shared across every page of the shop. So whatever you set up in the header or in the footer is going to show up everywhere. On the home, on every product page, on every collection page, you name it. In the middle, between the header and the footer, you have the template group. The template group is different. It's specific to the page type you're currently editing. Right now, I'm on the home page. So what I see here is the home page stack of sections. A slideshow, a media banner, a featured collection, and so on. Let me show you what happens when I switch to a different template. I click the template menu in the top bar and I pick products. The product template loads in the preview and watch the sidebar on the left. The header group stayed the same, the footer group stayed the same, but the template group completely changed. Now I see the sections of a product page. Product information, product features, all that. If I switch back to home page, the template group goes back to the home sections. Same logic for every page type. One more thing. Teams can also add other groups for specific layouts. For example, on Aries, there's an overlay group that's used for pop-ups, things that float on top of the rest of the site. So depending on the theme you're using, you might see a few extra groups here. Okay, now let's actually edit some sections. A section is a module placed inside a template or a group. The hero, the featured collection, the footer, an email sign up, each of those is a section. And the big difference compared to the theme settings we just saw is this. When you change a section's settings, it only affects that section. You can have two sections of the same type on the same page, set up completely differently. I will show you exactly that in a moment. Let me start with the first section in the home page, the media banner. I click on it in the sidebar and you can see the settings panel opens up on the right with all the options for the section. I'm going to make 3 changes to it. First, I want to add an image. I scroll to the image settings and I click select. I pick an image from the library and there. The image just got added in the preview. You can see the banner now has a proper visual. Second, I want to change the height of the banner. I find the height setting and I will set it to another value. Third, the image is a bit too bright behind the text, so I want to add a darker overlay on it. I find the overlay opacity setting and I increase it. You can see the image is getting darker as I increase the value. 3 changes all apply to this one section, and you saw them apply live in the preview as I made them. Let me move on to the next section. I click on the featured collection in the sidebar. The settings panel switches and now shows me the options for this section. I'm going to make 3 changes here too. First, I want to pick which collection to display. I click the collection setting and I select one from the list. The preview updates and now I'm showing the products from that collection. Second, I want to change the title of the section. I edit the heading field, I type a new title, and you can see it updated in the preview. Third, I want to change the layout to show more products per row. I found the columns setting and I increase the number of columns. You can see the products just rearranged in the preview to fit the new layout. Now, I'm going to add a second featured collection section right below the first one. I will show you how to add sections in detail in a moment, but for now, just so you can see the logic, I will add it quickly. There I have a second featured collection section and I click on it to open its settings. This is the same section type as the one above, but it is a separate instance with its own settings. Watch how I set this one up differently. First, instead of picking a whole collection, I will pick specific products one by one. I click on the product settings and I select a few products from the list manually. Second, I change the heading to something different from the first one. And third, I will turn off the slider option, so the products show up as a static grid instead of sliding. Look at the preview now. The featured collection sections on the same page with completely different settings. The first one shows a collection in a slider with 3 columns. The second one shows hand-picked products in a static grid. The settings of one didn't touch the other. That's the whole point of section level customization. One more example with the image with text section a bit further down. I click on it, settings panel opens. I'm going to add an image, set the image placement to the left and set the alignment to the left as well. There, image added. Image placement left, the image just moved to the left side of the section in the preview. Alignment left, the text inside the section is now left aligned. 3 quick changes, you see each one apply live. Now let me show you a few useful things you can do with sections beyond just editing their settings. First, you can reorder them by drag and drop in the sidebar. I'll grab this featured collection, drag it up, and drop it just below the media banner. The preview reorganizes to match the new order. And if I try to drop a section into a spot where it doesn't belong, like dragging a section from the template group up into the header group, watch what happens. It snaps back to its original position. Shopify won't let you do that. Second, the right-click menu. I right-click on any section in the sidebar and the menu appears with several options. Let me go through them. Copy lets you copy a section. Paste lets you paste one you previously copied. Duplicate makes a copy of the section in place. Rename lets you rename the section in the sidebar. Hide hides the section without deleting it. Add section before lets you add a new section just above this one. Add section after lets you add one just below. Edit code jumps to the section's code for developers. And remove deletes it. A quick note on hiding. That option is also available directly on each section line in the sidebar. You can see this small eye icon next to each section. I click on it and the section just disappeared from the preview, but it is still in the sidebar. I click again and it's back. Useful when you want to temporarily turn off a section without losing its setup. Third, 2 more buttons for adding sections. The first one is a plus button that shows up between sections in the sidebar. If I hover between 2 sections, the button appears. I click on it and the section picker opens. This lets me add a new section at exactly that spot. I will close it for now. The second one is the Add Section button at the bottom of the section list. I scroll down to the bottom of the template group and I click Add Section. The full picker opens, and this is where you choose what kind of section to add. Let me walk you through this picker. At the top, you have a search bar to look up at a specific section by name. Below that, two tabs: Sections, which is selected by default, and Apps. The Sections tab shows you all the sections built into the theme, organized by category, like banner, blog, collections, and so on. So if you're looking for a media banner or a featured collection, that's where you'll find them. The Apps tab shows you sections added by apps installed on the shop. For example, if you installed a reviews app, you'd find the reviews sections in there. And at the very top of the picker, above all categories, you have a Generate button. This is the IA generation option I mentioned earlier with Sidekick. You click it, you describe the section you want in plain English, and Sidekick builds a custom section for you, ready to drop into the page. One last thing to know. A template can have at most 25 sections, so once you hit that limit, the Add Section button gets disabled, and you'll see the count next to it. I will close the picker, and we will move to the last level of customization. Last level of customization, the blocks. A block is an element that lives inside a section. It can be a piece of text, a button, a product card, an image, all kinds of things. A section can hold multiple blocks, and each block has its own settings, even more granular than the section's setting. Let me show you with the image with text section we already have on the page. I click on it in the sidebar to open it, and you can see I can expand it by clicking the arrow on the left. Now I can see the blocks that are already inside, and I have an Add Block button at the bottom of the section to add new ones. I'm going to add 3 blocks to this section. First, a heading block. I click Add Block, and the smaller picker opens with all the blocks types I can add. I pick heading text. The block is added, and the settings panel opens with the options for this block. I can edit the text content or the font size. I will type some text in there, and you can see it appear in the preview. Second, a product card block. I click Add Block again, and this time I pick product card. The block is added below the text. I click on it to open its settings, and I can pick which product to display. I select one from the list, and the product card shows up in the preview, with the product image, the title, and the price. Third, a button block. Add block, pick button. The block is added at the bottom. I click on it, and I can edit the label and the link. I will change the label to Shop Now. And there, the button label just updated in the preview. The plus button works the same way as for sections. If I hover between two blocks in the sidebar, a plus button appears. I click on it, and the block picker opens to add a new one at exactly that spot. I will close that for now. And the right click menu also works on blocks. I right click on any block, and you get the same kind of menu we saw earlier. Copy, hide, rename, edit code, remove, and so on. Same logic as sections, just at the block level. And that's the full tour of the Shopify theme editor. Let me give you a quick recap. The editor has 3 main zones: the menu bar at the top with all the icons and menus, the sidebar on the left that lists everything on the page you're editing, and the live preview in the middle that updates in real time as you make changes. The sidebar itself is split into groups. The header and footer groups are shared across the entire shop, and the template group is specific to the page type you're editing. And customization happens at 3 nested levels: the theme settings for things that apply to the whole shop, the section settings for each module on a page, and the block settings for each item inside the section. Once you have that mental model in place, the rest is just exploring and experimenting. Click around, change things, see what happens. The undo button is always there if something goes wrong. Everything I just showed you, I filmed on Aries, the Shopify theme I built. If you want to see Aries live, the demo links are in the description. And subscribe if you want to see the next videos in the series.